Welcome to an all present here. I'm Ramya Devi working as assistant professor in SNS College of Engineering. Today I'm going to share a small article regarding web servers. So basically what is a web server? So whenever a client is trying to communicate any information or trying to communicate to a server, so the client request is processed in the web server and then it will send back your response to the client. So this is the client server communication model, which is also called as a request response model. So basically then a web server should be a supercomputer which holds all the information whichever the client has been sent for processing. So a web server is also a server software or a hardware that runs websites. It communicates with a web browser using the HTTP, which is Hypertext Transfer Protocol. So server features, the server should have the following features, like it should able to accept the HTTP request from web clients and return an appropriate resource if in the HTTP response. This involves a number of steps in the web server. So the first step is the server calls on TCP software and waits for connection request. Upon receiving, server dedicates a subtask to handling this connection. Subtask establishes TCP connection and receives an HTTP request. It examines host header field and invokes software for this host, and it maps the resource on the server. And if the resource is available, it creates a file as a response, and the resource is a program, returns output of the program, and then the client initiates a connection close when once the client has received the HTTP response. And this is the history behind your web server. So the server history is, so first it has an HTTPD which has been established in 1990, and Apache server has been developed in 1995, and Microsoft IaaS and Tomcat server. So the servlet container provides a Java virtual machine that runs the Java server program known as a servlet. So the server configuration is divided into two types. So one is the external communication and the other one is for internal processing. So for external communication, the Tomcat web server uses the Coyat and Catalina. For Coyat is HTTP 1.1 communication, and Catalina is the actual servlet container. So the Coyat parameters for communicating to the external devices is, first we have to configure the IP addresses and TCP ports and number of subtasks during server initialization, and maximum number of threads, maximum number of TCP connection requests in queue, and connection timeout. And next, for internal processing, it is used for tuning the server, like it changes the value to optimize the performance. It simulates using load generations or stress test tool. And this is the server configuration and tuning. For Catalina parameters affecting functionality, which client machines may send HTTP requests to the server, which virtual hosts are listening for TCP connections on a given port, what logging will be performed, how the path portion of request URIs will be mapped to the server, file system or other resources, whether or not the server resources will be password protected or not. So for that we need 5 server components. The first one is the connector, host, logger, realm and valve. So here the connector component, some of the fields of the connector component is it accepts the count, the connection timeout, IP address, port number, and the minimum spare threads, maximum threads and maximum spare threads. And here it defines the virtual host. Here the web application, any website component that performs some function for the web service. For example, online forms, shopping carts, word processors, spreadsheets, video and photo editing, file conversion, file scanning and email programs. So the Tomcat context component represents the web application. So the applications can either be stored in an web application archive as a WAR file or organized as an unpacked resources. So next is the logging information. Web server logs record information about server activity like a page error, page views, errors, who have logged in, the access log like performed by the access log has been performed by the valve component. Here the valve component, it has the directory in which the logs are available and the class name for which the access log value is available. And next is your access control, so which gives the it has a two-stage process. The first one is a database of username with password and a list of roles like administrator, developer, and end user. And certain resources can only be accessed by servers who belong to certain roles. And these are all the server components available in your web server.